We're going to spend time going over how to set up your computer to make it easier to use Pro Tools. There's a bunch of factors involved. Using the computer keyboard with key commands, keyboard shortcuts, you should learn some of those. Setting up Pro Tools, because most of you are going to be working on laptop, to be able to save space so you can see more of the music rather than functionality inside of the edit window. There's things you don't need to have in there. So we'll go over all that. I have prepared for that, and it's in the CUNY Dropbox, and I will send the links for this when I send the PDF for the assignment tomorrow morning. There's Pro Tools setup preferences and Spotlight keyboard and mouse setup for the Mac. There's no Spotlight in a PC, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so let's start with keyboard and Spotlight and everything. So Spotlight is something that I never use. And the problem with Spotlight is that it accesses some of the key commands on the computer keyboard that are useful for Pro Tools. So we need to get rid of that. So Pro Tools to work better with your mouse and keyboard, you'll do the following. Turn off Spotlight. So what you'll have to do is go to System Setting under the Apple menu. So that's up here, and you go down to System Settings. And once you do this once, you won't have to do it again. So System Settings, and then you will select Keyboard on the left. So you'll have to scroll down to Keyboard, and then Keyboard Shortcuts right here. And that opens up this, and you'll see that right here is Spotlight. And you will have these both turned on like this. You'll just click and turn them off. This is one of the key commands for recording in Pro Tools. The other thing that's very helpful, I find, for navigating around Pro Tools, if you set up the function keys, which are these guys up here, to act as function keys, as opposed to on your laptop, they act to make the screen brighter, turn the volume up, stuff like that. There's certain things that you can access here that you won't have to use the mouse for. If you want to use the function keys, you just have to push down FN, and then these will all work as they originally did. So what you'll do is you'll go down to function keys, and you'll set them up so that they are used as standard function keys, right? So you just turn that on. So this is all in the PDF.
Excuse me, Professor.
Yes.
The Spotlight function, is that only going to be for Apple computers?
Correct.
Okay, just making sure.
Yes. If I didn't say that, I apologize. So the next thing you want to do, if you haven't done it already, is you want to go down to your mouse. If you're using a mouse, you want to set up secondary click for click on the right side. This way, that's like right-clicking on a PC. If you're using a trackpad, you can use the command click function. It's a little more cumbersome, but it works fine. What I'm about to go over with you is all contained in this guide, and this is both Mac and PC. Somebody who uses PC, if I use the command function on Mac computer keyboard, it's control. So I do command shift on Mac, it's control shift on PC. Is that correct?
I believe so, yeah.
For those of you that have Mac, and if there's a way to do this in PC, you should consider this, is that you're going to go inside your application folder. Pro Tools for PC works great, so don't worry about that. It's just that a lot of people, the school has Apple computers, and that's what I use, but it works fine. And you're going to find Pro Tools, which is right here. You're going to click and drag that down so that it is in your dock. So I've got Pro Tools in the dock down here, which means that I can just click here and turn it on. So when you open up Pro Tools for the first time, it will take a second to load because it will scan through all of these plugins. The first time through, it takes more time to scan through them, and then it gets into the preferences, and it's good to go. It's quicker after the first time. This is called the dashboard. This is where you're going to name your session. For this, I'm going to name it using the convention that we're going to be working with in class, which is the name of the project, and it's just going to be test, underscore, date, and we're going to use dashes. Today's 2/3-2025 underscore your initials. This is where we're going to do some setting up. We're not using audio files at the beginning, but you should set this up and then it should stay and you shouldn't have to worry about it going forward. We're going to select BWF for our audio file type, and our sample rate is going to be 44.1. I use 48 for everything because it's film and television uses 48. We're going to learn about sample rate in an upcoming class when we deal with audio files. And we're going to learn about bit depth. You're going to set your bit depth up for 24-bit and then leave this alone. So 44, 24. And you want your audio files to be interleaved. And what that means is that if you've got a stereo file, it will be just one file as opposed to a file that has an extension that goes .r and a second file .l, right? That's a little cumbersome. Better to have it as a single file, and that's through interleaved. And then right here, you're going to want to select prompt for location. And before you do any work, you need to set up a spot on your computer that's going to have all your projects for this class. So what I would suggest you do is either on your desktop, on an external drive that's hooked up, or somewhere on your computer, make a folder and title it Audio MIDI 1. And all your work is going to go in there. All your projects are going to go in there. And the other thing about working is that we are working with digital information, and that can get corrupt. Hard drives can crash. So all of your files need to be backed up in multiple places. On your hard drive, maybe on a thumb drive, an external USB drive as a second place, and somewhere up on the cloud. If you've got a Gmail account, you get, I think, 15 gigabytes of free storage space. If you've got your own personal Dropbox not associated with Queens College, I think it gives you 2 gigabytes of space. Places online where you can store stuff. What I do is I've got a dock that's hooked up to my laptop. Well, I'm using my laptop now, but whatever studio computer I'm using, I have a dock hooked up to it. And I've got my computer set up so that I've got my hard drive, my project drive, which has all my projects in it, and my sample drive, which has all my sample libraries in it. And then in my dock, I've got a couple of other hard drives, and I can just copy things instantly into these hard drives. Back up your stuff. Have a couple of places. Alternatively, you could compress the file, and the stuff that we're doing here is very small. You could email it to yourself. And that's another place that you can store, that you can save stuff. So you want a prompt for location. I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm going to call it Audio MIDI 1, just like that. And my test here, when I go create, it's going to give me a save dialog. And you might have something that looks like this. You could just expand that out, right? And then you can choose from in here to navigate. It makes it a little quicker. So I'm just going to go right here, and I'm going to save. And then this is what you'll see. Pro Tools will open up a session. Now, let's talk about something incredibly important that you really need to understand. And I didn't understand this when I first started doing this stuff with audio like 25 years ago inside the computer, more than 25 years ago, is that there is a hierarchy that all of these sequencing programs use to access data. And you need to have that hierarchy set up in most cases where it is self-contained and portable. Everything is in one folder. All the assets that your software needs to access are in that folder. And to be portable, that means that when you zip that folder up and you upload your assignment, I can download it and everything is in your folder and it opens up perfectly well inside of my computer. So if you're going to collaborate with people back and forth, this is incredibly important. And it also is important to have smooth running sessions. The structure for Pro Tools is that this is my project folder for the class. And inside the project folder, I have this folder here, subfolder, which is called the Pro Tools Session Folder. This is the session folder. And this folder is a container. And inside this container are all the assets you need to run Pro Tools correctly. So I'm going to open this folder up, and I can do that one of two ways. I can either click on this sideways triangle or double click here. Pro Tools creates all of these items right here. This is our Pro Tools session file. And you'll always know it's the session file because it has the extension .ptx. This is the wave cache, which helps to redraw the audio files if you have audio files in your session. And then Pro Tools creates containers so that it's prepared that if you create anything, a video file, clip group, bounce files, audio files, they will automatically be routed into these folders. But these folders disappear if you have not entered anything into them. So right now, each one of these is empty, right? That's empty. They're all empty. I'm going to minimize this for a second, and I'm going to close the session, and then you'll see that everything disappears except test-2-3-25, right? So I'm going to use a key command to save. Whoops. And then you'll see all of those files disappear. Those folders disappeared. So if I click on this again to open the session, they're all back. So the big takeaway from here is that you have the session folder and the session file. When you're going to hand in an assignment, you are going to compress this. And the way you do this on a Mac is you right-click or you command-click, control-click, and you compress. And this .zip file of the session folder is what you upload. You do not upload this. Let me repeat that again. You're going to compress the session folder, and that's what you send. You're not going to send or compress the .ptx session file. I could tell you that I'm going to go over that and over that and over that, and some of you are going to continue. You're going to do it, and I will just gently remind you. But at some point, I'm not going to grade your assignment. I'm going to write you an email saying you got to do the session folder and upload that. Even though I most likely in these basic early projects, I'll be able to correct the .ptx session file and go over that. I just want you to get in the habit of doing this what I consider to be the correct way, and that is to compress the session folder with the session file in it.